After a night of letting the work set up and harden 100%, which might be overly cautious, but at this point, why not be a little bit extra cautious? It has become time to take the mold apart. This stage is getting the resin model mold off the silicone, which we have to do first. It's a very straightforward process if the design of the mold was properly done. If it was, the model mold pieces should just pop off, more or less. I'll take a few seconds to clean up the edges of the model mold before moving on. Sharp resin along the edges of the model mold can hurt both you and the silicone. One of the model molds, the one on the inside of the right leg, wouldn't come out here because there was a lack of space. This is not a problem, as you will see. We can cut the silicone on the outside of the right leg off, remove it, and remove the clay of the leg itself. This will free up space on the outside and allow us to bring the model mold outwards, kind of through the silicone, where the right leg once occupied space. We can of course do this because we have already made the silicone and the model mold for these parts, the legs that is. So the legs themselves, the clay legs, can be destroyed at this point without needing to worry, as long as we keep the model molds and the silicone safe. We just have to be careful while doing so not to damage anything that we haven't made model molds for yet. When the model mold is safely removed, we move on to removing the silicone. The silicone is made in one piece with a wall signifying where it is supposed to become parts, as compared to the model mold, which we make in two parts to begin with. This means that to remove the silicone, we must first turn it into two pieces, and we do this by cutting down the middle of our silicone walls, which has been strategically placed so that the silicone pieces will come off easily, once cut that is. And of course, we place them with the model mold coming off in mind as well. I use a special knife to cut the silicone. Because we made the silicone in one piece and are now cutting it into two pieces, there is nothing that is going to register the two pieces of silicone together if you use a regular knife with a straight blade. Instead, I will use what's called a mold cutter's knife or a silicone knife. It's essentially a blade with half a circle in the blade. When cutting with this blade, one side of the silicone get the positive side of the half circle and the other will get the negative. This creates a groove running along the inside of the silicone walls, which will help the two silicone pieces align perfectly when you place them against each other. You will have to place them against each other when casting, of course. The blade is quite handy, but the half circle takes up more space than a straight blade would, of course. And this means that in order to use one of these, you need to make sure that the silicone walls is a little bit thicker than you might otherwise need, so that the blade and the registration groove can fit properly within the silicone wall, without any chance of coming out on either side of your wall. You can see here on the blade that I've made a little mark in Sharpie marker to signify how deep I'm cutting. You really want the half circle to be more or less in the middle of the wall, not all the way at the top or all the way down at the bottom. This Sharpie mark lets me see how deep I'm cutting and helps me control the depth of the blade with much greater accuracy. Notice that I also cut from top towards the bottom, as it's much easier to get a nice and controlled cut this way, using your body weight to lean on the blade to control the cut rather than the strength of your arms. Your arms are going to tire and you'll have much less precision compared to if you use your body weight to control the cut of the blade. I also keep one hand on the blade, of course, and the other above where I'm cutting, stabilizing the sculpture. You'd think you would need to tell people not to put their hands in front of a sharp blade, but believe me, you do need to tell people. Last important thing to mention about this very important cut is to always keep the blade at 90 degrees to the top surface of your silicone wall. This will ensure a straight cut through the wall down to the clay surface, or at least down close to the clay surface. If you angle your blade, you might cut through the side of your wall or cut through the side of your silicone skin. This means that all the hard work we did trying to keep the silicone walls clean and at 90 degrees now pays off. We can use our silicone walls to help control the cut. We can also trust our walls. As long as the knife is kept at a 90-degree angle to the top surface of the silicone wall, our cut will be straight and true, and hopefully we will be successful. Despite all our hard works and attempts, we still need to go back in with a straight blade in some spots to cut all the way through the silicone down to the surface of the clay. Some spots in the silicone skin are going to be thicker than others, so this step is pretty much inevitable. In addition to that, there are places where we will be cutting the leg pieces off from the rest of the mold. These cuts do not need to register together, and it's therefore both fine and much easier to use a straight blade.